anyways, tell me a little bit about what the gratitude journal did with just your overall well-being. Did it help you connect to people better, connect to God better? What did it do as far as those aspects are concerned? Nice throw, bro.
Let's go ahead.
Real authentic conversations here.
Yeah. So how does it help me with my
Relationships,
Okay.
relationship with God, like just connections to things.
I will say that it's helped me be more grateful for the, so now I have a reason to be thankful. I don't know, I catch it more. Like when someone does me a favor, I'm actually like seriously thankful.
Right.
For that thing
Because
that
they went
did.
out of their way, right?
Even if it's not the biggest thing, like you holding the door.
Yeah,
just
that's
gives
a
me
nice
a reason
thing.
to say, oh, thank you for doing XYZ for me.
Right.
So
Cool. So, going on to this gratitude thing, do you also write about maybe hardships in that? Like, oh, this difficult thing happened today. I'm grateful that that happened because X, Y, and Z in the future.
sometimes, sometimes it's. I like doing it at the end of the day a lot because it helps me like, I don't know, assess the day. But
Right.
usually I do it at the beginning of the day. So I'm more like thankful for like the coffee that's in front of me, the conversation I had the night before, and the work that I'm about to get done. So sure,
Right.
I'm thankful for the thing that's about to happen.
Right. So, how far back does this gratitude journal go? When did you start it?
Probably December of last year.
Right. So that's a long time ago. So to me, it has to be basically evident that the changes in your life are definitely something to be grateful for. But it kind of shows like God's helping hand with you along the way, right? Because a year ago, it seemed almost impossible to imagine having a successful business, being as mobile as you are after the car accident you were in, just things along those lines, right? Being as healthy as you are now. So it's like, obviously you've put in some good work, but God's been helping you a lot along the way.
Thank you, bro. Thank you. Yeah, I will say that has, like, even if you look back at the journal, like, when I started doing it, say maybe 90% of everything was like, I'm thankful for my coffee, or I'm thankful for this friend because they did this thing for me. And, like, I don't know, almost in, like, a shallow way.
Right.
So all my...
Real mundane, right?
Yeah, now the things I'm grateful for is, like, the fact that I have the free will and, like, an intellect that I can think freely. Like,
Right.
those are, so it's changed a bit.
Right, definitely, right. And sometimes we don't even realize how grateful we are to have like a meal in front of us. Just to
Yeah.
be able to have this coffee and those cinnamon rolls you had earlier, right? That's something to actually be grateful for, because people say this all the time, but we actually have it so easy here in the United States. Like, we don't have to ever worry about what we're going to eat typically. We just are like, oh, where should we go eat? Which is kind of dumb anyways. But in other countries, people are just really concerned about their next meal, right? And that's why I find fasting really interesting. I know we're kind of going off on a tangent, but our bodies are actually built to go, days, sometimes weeks without eating. Historically, we're just in a society where we have such an abundance of food, right? And we're not grateful for that. Our ancestors, for instance, they would eat a lot in one day, and then they don't know where their next meal's coming from for perhaps days, weeks, sometimes longer, right?
Yeah, I think that's interesting because it is, like how you were saying, we do just go from place to place. We're not thankful for the food that we have.
Right.
And the biggest problem with that too is that in the early, like our ancestors, the dangerous men, right?
Right.
They had a reason to go find food, and since we've they had a reason to survive, and since we've cut out those basic needs for survival, people get their satisfaction from other things that are not, I don't know, like they get their satisfaction from TV, phones,
Right.
other interactions with people that...
Or things that lack meaning.
Correct, yeah. So that's interesting to me, is that like we're hard, especially in this country, to like appreciate things because everything's so easy when it's all right here.
Yeah, and we tend to only look at our own struggles, right? We don't really care about struggles other people are going through, right? Like, we should be incredibly grateful just to really have hands that work, being able to walk, right? There's people that don't have that blessing that we have as far as that regard is, but we never really, myself included sometimes, don't ever really take the time to think of how lucky we are and how blessed we are to be able to do those things, because some people don't. We almost refuse to put ourselves in other people's shoes and make it seem like our hardships are way more difficult than anyone else's, when that's just not the case.
Why do you think we do that?
Because we want to hold ourselves maybe to a higher standard or something, or maybe an insecurity, so we do that to hold ourselves to a higher standard. Like, for instance, let's say you see like a millionaire, right? And you're like, oh, well, if I had all the opportunities he had, I would have done it even better, right? People often say things like that. Oh, I would have been a professional athlete if I was 6'3". You know, people say things like that, right? But it's a lot easier to just place that blame to make yourself feel better, kind of thing.
So how can someone, like, how can we, or maybe even someone watching, be better even though maybe they weren't genetically, like, born with certain gifts, like, for example, height, or say, you know, I don't know, maybe they weren't, like, in a impoverished country or something. Like, what would you say to that person that thinks they can't improve?
Right, well, the thing is, we all have gifts, right? We're all born with gifts, and we have time to develop gifts, right? This brings me to a story we were reading in church, a very famous story, right? David versus Goliath, right? So David, he's in his early 20s. Basically, Goliath, if people don't know, he's like 8 or 9 feet tall, just a behemoth of a man, a giant, literally. And David's probably maybe about our height, our age, and Goliath just has all the armor, outmatches him in every aspect, right? So it's no chance that David can win, right? Is what people are saying. People were to gamble on it, which people love to gamble nowadays. Everybody would say that Goliath is going to win, right? Would they not?
That's funny. Like, I can imagine people gambling.
Yeah, it kind of was a bet in a. For instance, in the story, the Philistines, which is Goliath, if they were to win, they basically take the Israelites as their slaves, and vice versa, right? If the Israelites win, they take Goliath, or Goliath would be dead, but they take the Philistines as their slaves, basically. So what happens in this story, it gives a little bit of a backtrack, right, of David, and he is a sheep herder, basically, and what he does is he has basically a slingshot and a rock, right? And while he's herding these sheep, he comes across lions and bears, and that's pretty big giants to face, right? That's some obstacles to face. And he shoots them with the rock, right? Takes them out. And little did David probably know at the time, this is practice for when he's going to face Goliath someday, right? So overcoming those little challenges allowed him to be prepared to face this really big challenge, right? And for those that don't know the story, David ends up hitting Goliath in the head with a stone and then cuts his head off and pretty much takes care of business, David does. And the thing is, God gave him these challenges for him to work on his gifts and develop his gifts. So if you looked at it the way humans look at it, you're going to say, oh, Goliath has been given way better gifts than David. But it's clear that that's not necessarily the case, right? Because the way we look at things as humans, we only see things on the outside instead of the inside. And I would say that's the big point of this, is we have to understand that our power with God is from the inside. We shouldn't be near as concerned with the outside, because if we were, David would never win.
I like that. That's good.
Pretty gnarly story. I love hearing that story anyways.
I always found that interesting because it made me realize, like, as a child, that, like, even though maybe I wasn't the strongest or whatever situation occurred, like, I always knew that if you practice enough at something and you knew you had some, like you said, gift, like, you can accomplish anything.
Right.
And that's inspiring for people that maybe don't realize that they have certain gifts, because I think, like you said, everyone does have a gift, but sometimes
multiple gifts even, and we're called to share those gifts with others. There's no reason, just it's really almost selfish to have a gift and never, like, to even find out that you have that gift, or just to find out you have it and keep it to yourself. That's not right. We're supposed to share these gifts with others. David, using his gifts and his skills, basically freed the Israelites. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it wasn't just about him. Look at what he did for so many other people with God's hand on him.
Yeah, that's nice. That is nice.
Gnarly, bro. It's gnarly. I mean, it's hard. Like, I wish. That's what's so cool about the Bible. Like, people really just need to look at some of these stories, right? People like movies and TV shows now, which makes it harder. But reading is so valuable. Like, you read a lot. But just, like, picture that story happening. Like, that's crazy, bro. Like, a guy our size, our age, goes and dominates this like 8-foot soldier, bro, who has all the gear, all the armor on, and shoots him with a slingshot, bro. Nails him in the forehead, takes care of business. Imagine seeing that. That's insane.
Do you think? All right, here's my question. I'm gonna tie it into the topic. You ready? So, do you think that defeating Goliath made David a dangerous man, or was he already a dangerous man?
Right, so the reason we're talking about dangerous men is because after a sermon that I watched yesterday, I guess, I was talking to this guy who also serves with the middle school ministry with me, and he was saying that after hearing the story of David and Goliath, he wants to maybe reach his full potential and keep increasing like David. I mean, look, who would have thought he had the potential to defeat Goliath? But he knew God was with him, and he was able to do that, right? So David was definitely a dangerous man. But a man basically said to me, he's like, I want to be a dangerous man, and keep becoming a dangerous man. And perhaps not even stop being a dangerous man. And I would say David was already a dangerous man based off just literally he was kicking the butts of lions and bears, right?
That's crazy.
I mean, you got to be a dangerous man to do that. But in the other area, I would say he's a dangerous man because he had full faith that God was going to give him the gifts, the skills, and just be with him along the way to be able to handle these obstacles. So definitely David was already a dangerous man, and he knew it and God knew it, but after he defeated Goliath, everybody knew it.
Does faith make you a dangerous?
Yes, definitely it does. And for our audience, a dangerous man, we're looking at it more as like a positive context than like, oh, he's dangerous, he's crazy, he might go just kill people for no reason, right? That's not what we're saying a dangerous man is. We're saying a man that's willing to face the battles in his life, face the hardships in his life, and women too that are willing to face the battles in their lives, face the hardships in their life head on, and even if they fail, they're going to get back up by their bootstraps and be ready to face a challenge again, right? Because like I was saying earlier, David facing those lions and bears is a dangerous challenge, but it was basically preparing him for a bigger challenge down the road, right? So these small challenges we face even daily sometimes, we need to be dangerous and hit them head on and come ready to conquer these challenges, right? And then once we have one that seems unbearable, God's given us the preparation to handle it.
So that reminds me of something that I heard one time that basically says, like, as a dangerous man, you were talking about how being a dangerous man isn't in a negative manner. So if you don't learn to become a dangerous man,
dangerous and psychotic are different.
yeah, for sure. You become almost. So if you hold everything in and you don't accept the battles that you're going to have to face them and the trials and tribulations, you don't understand that you're going to have to work hard and be a respectable man. If you don't do those things to help yourself become the man that you're supposed to become and God created you for, then if you're holding in your insecurities, those are the type of men that become the dangerous men that you were thinking of. The school shooters, the rapists, all of those guys, because they have no purpose, haven't reached any potential, right? They're dealing with depression, anxiety, all sorts of terrible things that is away from God, right? The Holy Spirit doesn't give you any of those things. The Holy Spirit actually, many people don't know this, fear does not come from the Holy Spirit at all. It comes from a spirit of evil, basically, fear does. But we have a lot of fear nowadays, right? Why? So I think because people don't have maybe full faith in God, definitely, right? So I'll kind of go on a little bit of a tangent, and this isn't to glorify myself in any way. This is strictly to show the glory of God, right? So a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, before really I started walking with the Lord, right, I definitely didn't have the confidence I have now, and that confidence comes from God, right? 2 years ago, there's no way I would go talk to a girl without being drunk. Right now, I have the confidence in it. I'm in God's image. 2 years ago, maybe I wouldn't have been willing to do this or that, but now I have the confidence in it, and that's not because of me. That's because of God and the Holy Spirit that's within me.
That's awesome. That is awesome.
Yeah, that's literally just to glorify God, nothing about me.
Well, I mean, it's a fair point, bro. Like, if you look at the way alcohol takes over you, you kind of get, I don't know, like, the confidence gets there, right? How we were talking about with the coffee and all that. Like, you get the confidence, but then also, on the other side,
you're not confident sober. And it's interesting because I see this very often. It seems like if you get drunk, you're not confident in yourself and your existence. Like the happiest people are sober.
Right.
And
it is kind of becoming cool to be sober again, bro. Low key.
Is,
so I love that's happening. Not that drinking's bad, it's just drunkenness is bad. But
explain.
Just based on scripture, it says that, and it was way different back then, right? The wine that they drank way back then had way less alcohol content than it does today. But even like Jesus drank wine. You've heard the story, water into wine, that good stuff. But it talks about multiple verses about just drunkenness being a sin, and you need to stay sober-minded, right? But it never directly says that drinking alcohol is a sin, right? But for me, I just want to stay away from it, but to each their own, right? Just because I have that personal conviction doesn't mean that you're required to as well, right? You know what I mean?
So how long has it been since you?
Probably coming close to 10 months, somewhere in there.
Has there been any time where you've been tempted to drink? Maybe even recently?
Not really recently, right? It's been more towards the beginning because it was hard to accept the different judgments of friends. Like, oh, bro, just go for a few months, just do this, right? Because at first it was a plan just to go for maybe 3 months, maybe 6 months, just get clarity in my life, right? Was the plan. But as time went on, I actually had a conversation with my friend Henry about this. Why make a deal with God, right? Let's just be free from sin instead of say, oh God, I'll do this for 3 months if you give me clarity, but then as soon as you give me clarity, I'm going to start drinking again.
Are you familiar with Lent, right?
Lent, yeah, giving up something.
See, that's something I've never really resonated with that, and then also the New Year's resolution, and we're coming up on that now, but everyone's like, oh,
the gym's going to be crazy, bro. The gym's going to be so packed.
I'm excited about that, man. But it's always the same, man. New year, new me, and then
right.
A month later, it's just...
People don't realize the power of a resolution, right? If you do it the right way, is fine. I'm all for people trying to improve themselves, but the thing is, take it seriously.
But do it today, though.
Yeah, I agree with that, too.
What are we waiting on?
I agree with that, too, and I respect that. But I don't want to, put somebody down that's like, oh, I'm going to start this. I want to, cheer them on. But there is this saying, it can be one day, or today can be day one, right? Why not just make it day one? So I agree what you're saying, but if someone is saying, starting on January 1st, I'm going to start doing this, you don't want to put them down, right? Maybe you just want to be there for them and hold them accountable in a loving way, right? Don't give up, bro. Keep going. You this. And when they do fail, don't be too hard on them. Just say, you failed here, but it's not over. The battle's not over. It's just begun. Let's keep going again.
I don't know, man. I feel like, what if... Because in my opinion, I just feel like you need to have that hit from someone. Because when I was in middle school, high school, I was very, very overweight, and people were fat all the time. And I remember one time, it was even more recently, probably about a year ago, still relatively fat. And I'm not by all means skinny either, So, a year ago, someone called me fat, and this one girl was like, "You shouldn't let people call you fat." And I was like, "Why?" I enjoy it, because if they're going to call me fat, there's a reason. That means that I need to lose some weight. So, if I hear it, I don't know. I feel like picked on is almost important. I feel like we just don't have enough bullies, bro. It's a weird way of saying it, but...
I think tough love is acceptable, right? But, it's a lot different for me coming to you, someone that has a built-up relationship with you, than someone that is kind of more like a stranger, or not even really a close friend and doing that attack, right? Is that as appropriate, right? Because, I could come to you from a place of love and not have to call you fat, but be like, look, bro, I'm concerned about your weight. I'm about this. I really think you should get in the gym. How about you come with me, right? You put the pressure on them, but more in a healthy way, right? You don't want to just kill someone's self-esteem either.
Well, I'm saying, on the most part, though, that's not... Because people won't... First of all, people don't have that ability to have confrontations. That's one thing that I learned with sales is, because I've gotten to that point now where in a sales call, I just can't... It's all right, bro, what's going on? What's your problem? Let's figure it out. You're here because you're fat. That's why you're here. You're not here because you like to go check out gym offers. There's a reason you're here.
You're saying, yeah.
So I've kind of started to understand that, but I think that for the most part, we as a society don't want to have those confrontations, especially with people that we know very well. So it's easier to sit here and say, when I'm eating the cinnamon rolls, to call me fat,
Right.
than it is to like sit down and be like, look, bro, like I love you, but it's time to stop.
And that's the approach I would take, right? It's tough love, right? But it's maybe not malicious. I guess I'd say that tough love is great, but let's not do it maliciously, because then where's the love if you're doing it maliciously, right? But something we were kind of touching on earlier when we were talking about potential, right, of a dangerous man. So I don't really listen to David Goggins, but I saw him say this once, like he would hate for it to be basically the end of his life, and he's like talking to God, and God showing him like, this is the man you were supposed to be. If you would have faced these confrontations head on and faced these challenges and been willing to fight the good fight, right? This is the man you would have been. And then over here is the man that you became, right? He said that, and I found that very interesting. I mean, I want to be the best possible Jesus follower I can be, right? And whatever confrontations I have, that's just a challenge that you need to be ready to hit head on and be that dangerous man or woman.
Yeah. I know you're talking about David Goggins, that
yeah, it was something along those lines. I found it interesting. I don't know if that's exactly how it's going to be, obviously, and neither does he, but I found that very interesting, and it was kind of insightful in a way.
Do you think that you were close to being that man?
There's like yes and no, right? Because I think you never stop growing with God. Never should you be like, all right, I've done all hopes, and me and God, we're good. You know, no room to grow, right? That'd be like being married for 5 years and being like, all right, marriage is pretty good. No reason to grow together anymore. Let's just plateau here. You know, that's pretty mundane. That's pretty stupid, to be honest.
Yeah.
So maybe I would say I'm definitely more dangerous than I was 2 years ago, as far as being willing to face these obstacles, these challenges, and just being a good man, right? So 2 years ago, definitely more dangerous then. But 2 years down the road, do I expect to be more dangerous? 100%.
I like that. So what, like, describe the dangerous man. Like, what does the dangerous man do?
David, bro.
David
is a good
David's-
example. Yeah, but especially King David, bro.
Yeah, yeah. But David Goggins?
Oh yeah. I would say like for does he would be considered a dangerous man for sure, bro. I mean, you got some mental fortitude to do as many pull-ups as he did and as many miles
crazy
as he did. Like that takes some overcoming challenges, bro. Overcoming obstacles. That's kind of like what I would like to describe a dangerous man as, just a man that's willing to face obstacles and challenges head on and overcome them.
I like that. That's a great definition of a dangerous man.
Yeah, maybe write that down, bro, so we don't forget it.
Someone that's willing to overcome obstacles. I like that.
That's why I said women and should also be dangerous, and we were kind of talking about that earlier, and you were kind of like a little bit more hesitant on that. So what are your thoughts to change on that with kind of the definition I gave, or?
Yeah. Because that makes sense. Like I don't think
women have obstacles as well that I believe that with the help of God, they're supposed to do their best to overcome and grow, right? We're all supposed to grow. No one's supposed to plateau, just like I used the marriage example earlier. And I think that's a great way to look with God too. Not really in like a way where you're comparing your marriage to a relationship with God, but you never want your marriage to quit growing. Like if our friendship, let's just do a friendship for instance, if our friendship right here quit growing, like this is the peak of our friendship, how many more years do you think we'd be friends?
Well, I just couldn't, like, it just, that's how relationships usually go. It's like after a while, you know, the love dies down because no one wants to grow, and you're just sitting there watching movies. It's like, all right, can we?
Yeah,
I don't know.
let's keep growing. Right?
Yeah.
If our friendship today, this would be the last podcast.
For sure. Yeah.
Right.
We would forget about it. And
so if your marriage 5 years down the road plateaued, and it's plateaued, marriages you tend to fight for a little more, but it's plateaued for 2 or 3 years, you're going to get a divorce. The divorce rate is 50% in the United States.
Did you know the average death rate or like the suicide age for a man, I think, is 31, or it's either 31 or 41. So this is how it goes. They go to college, they get a degree, they get a job, they get a house, they get married, and then, you know, they aren't exactly successful in the way their wife wanted. They can't take care of their wife because they're not a dangerous man. They spend their time, you know, watching football, playing video games, and then finally, you know, they turn 30 years old. Wife's sick of it. due to divorce. I don't know if it's 30 or 40, but it's one.
Right.
It's like 31 or 41. But as soon as the marriage ends, then they're like, screw it, and that's why the suicide for that age
Yeah,
is so.
for men specifically, man, men kill themselves a lot more than nowadays, and it's really sad. But I mean, it is as simple as not being willing to face these hard challenges head on, and even if you fail, being willing to get back up and face it again, right? I mean, it's as simple as that, and it's sad. It's really sad, and I hope that those out there that are having struggles, I mean, talk to somebody, right? Whether it's us, someone else, or really if it's anybody. I just would love for people to be willing to have those conversations, right? I mean, one of my best friends, I'm not going to say his name, but he tried to kill himself a few years ago, right? And unfortunately, it didn't work out for him, but you know, I wasn't really walking with the Lord then, and I guess he probably wasn't either for that to happen, but I wish I could have been there for him, right? So he didn't even attempt that. And I think it takes more authentic for someone to come and talk to you about something like that. And when your relationships are so basic and so simple and so worldly, yeah, sure, but I really like the word worldly here, because worldly relationships is not what God is about, right? And we just need to be more authentic with each other and be willing to have deep conversations, because, I mean, life is life, right? We don't want to see anybody die or kill themselves. It's really sad, and we look at these suicide rates almost in a way, well, it's like, well, I don't know anyone that did it, so who really cares, right? But it's like, bro, these people are dying, you know, because they didn't think they were good enough. They didn't have anybody there to help them, right? You know, it's just really sad, and we don't look at it the right way.
This, like, in talking to people, that's the thing that I really like that you said, because I think we all need to have at least one person in our lives that we can go to and speak to about our problems. I even think maybe it needs to be like, you're helping me solve my issue, but more of, I think it was Freud that said this, but his philosophy for psychology was to just sit and listen to the patient and then ask them questions and help them work through it. So I think if you have a friend in your life that, instead of when you come to them and say, hey, I'm struggling with X, Y, and Z, they say, oh, that reminds me about how I feel you, bro. That reminds me about my struggle. Or, you know,
you definitely want relationship with someone that didn't have zero struggle, bro, because that's where wisdom comes from. Struggle is something that we haven't really pointed out yet. Wisdom comes from struggle.
Why?
Because once you face a hard obstacle, you gain knowledge based on how that turned out. Like, even if it didn't turn out the way you wanted, 10 years down the road, you're like, oh, that's why that happened. I understand now. And then we're able to give that wisdom to someone else. And wisdom is a gift, bro. People don't realize that. And it's a gift that you're not just born with, you have to work towards.
I heard someone say that we don't remember things just to remember. We remember things because there's a lesson that needs to be learned from that thing.
Perfect.
So if you have something that you think about actively, maybe a year, I think it was 16 months specifically. If you have something that you actively think about that's 16 months old, you don't just remember it to like play with your mind. There's something specific that you need to remember. There's a lesson that needs to be learned from that situation that maybe you haven't learned yet. That's why you remember it.
Definitely, bro. Well said. I agree completely. So,
You're welcome, bro.
okay, let's look at this, right? Let's go back to the suicide thing for a second, right? Because if you're suicidal, we established that maybe not a dangerous man, right? If you're suicidal, but you can still become a dangerous man. All hope is not lost. Let's not forget that, and we need to be willing to help other people become that man that they're supposed to be and that woman that they're supposed to be too. So let's talk about some stuff that we necessarily be proud of, right? You know, in the past, watched pornography, done this, done that, right? I'm not ashamed to say I've done that in the past. I've done it, right? You've done it too, right? So we need to be able to have relationships with people where we can talk about that stuff that we're not proud of and that we're ashamed of, right? And that's what a lot of these people that commit suicide, they don't have people or a resource of people that they can go talk to about these tough things that they're embarrassed of or shameful of or just really not proud of, right? So let's just hear you, for instance. How many people in your life would you say that you could go talk to about something that you're really ashamed that you did?
Honestly, bro, 3 people.
Yeah, see, bro, and that's low, right? Shouldn't it be many more than that? Mine's pretty low too, like 4 or 5 people.
And one of those is a family.
Yeah, see.
So, like,
So if me and you,
Yeah, she's
so me and you, people that I would say are walking with the Lord, right? We have that few people that we can go to. Obviously, we can go to God about this stuff too, which I do, right? I counted him as one of my 5, to be honest. So we go to these people we can talk to.
4.
Up to 4, right on, bro. Let's go, bro. Numbers up. So we go to these people that we can tell these sad, shameful things to. And it's only that many. Think about, and we're in community. Think about the people that might not necessarily be in community yet. Those numbers would dwindle. 2 years ago, bro, guess how many people I could go to about a conversation like that? About like, oh, I'm struggling with pornography, or I'm struggling with this. 2 years ago, how many people could I go talk to?
maybe 1.
Probably 0, bro.
Yeah.
Probably 0.
Yeah.
What about you? Would you say, I guess 1 would be your answer?
No, bro, it's 0.
Yeah, bro. So, I mean, why do we have friends? Yeah, I was going to follow it up, but I thought that was just a good enough question. Why do we have friends, right?
We have friends because we have addictions to the same things. From birth, we have this, our identity, right, which is formed at your birth, is what powers all your desires, your wants, and your needs. That's your identity, right? And this is like Freudian psychology. So that starts from an early age. Then after that, your ego starts to form. I don't know exactly when, but let's say maybe 3 or honestly, it's after a year, I think.
Dang,
but
that's
during
quick.
that time, yeah. So and the ego is supposed to please the identity. Well, here's the thing, right? During those stages of childhood, sometimes we might not get a certain fix that we needed in that age, so it'll become a fixation into adulthood. And then and then also there's the superego, which is it's the stuff you learn from other people. It's your influence from peers.
Does this kind of connect to pride? Is that, like, explain ego to me. Is that like a prideful thing, or what is ego?
So ego is the mediator between your identity and your superego.
So imagine I'm dumb, which for this conversation I kind of am dumb. Explain it to me. I am dumb.
Okay, so your identity is all, or your ID, right? It's what your wants, desires, needs, all that stuff. That's what your ID is. And then the superego is everyone else, all your peers, everything that you've been, your influences, yes, everything you've been told through your whole life is what builds your superego. The ego mediates between the two, the ID and the superego, but the ego tends to push more towards the ID most of the time because it's seeking for that pleasure, right? In early childhood, when you have certain fixations that maybe don't get taken care of in a certain way, they become a whole thing that you desire into your adulthood. So, for example, I maybe didn't get the sense of community in early childhood.
So
right?
now you would seek it, or how does that work?
So then, and actually, you know what? No, I'm going to do this right now. I'm going to say this. So when I was a child, in middle school, high school, I always felt like I fit in, but I wasn't in for whatever reason. And I don't even know why I felt that way, right? Then I had 2 serious relationships that didn't really end well, and those both made me feel like I was belonging to something, and I didn't have that sense of belonging. So then, when both those relationships ended, high school, middle school ended, then I got into college, I joined a fraternity, and I felt like I belonged. So I did everything I could to belong to that group.
Ooh, even at your own detriment.
Even at my own detriment. So then, now, all of my friends, the only reason we were friends was because we were in the same fraternity, we all liked to drink and do drugs.
Right.
That's literally why we became friends. And then when I finally decided, hey, I don't want to do those things anymore, some of those people no longer maybe appreciate.
Were your friend, to be honest.
We're not people I could go to and tell
what we just talked about.
Yeah.
Your hardships, your struggles, right? Stuff you're not proud of. Definitely. Real basic type level conversations, real basic friendships. And we were talking about earlier before we started the podcast a little bit about those kind of friends and friends where it's like we're sitting here together and somehow not us, but maybe in the past, in some of our friendships of the past, we would sit here together and we just are hanging out with each other, but we still want to show that we're better than them in a weird way.
Yeah,
You know,
just
I
like
think
one-upping all the time.
I think it's there's a clear example that is super easy to point out, right? Say 5 guys are hanging out with 5 girls. There's always that one guy that kind of tries to get the girls to laugh at another guy's expense. Right? What kind of friendship is that, right? Where I'm belittling him to look better in front of these girls, right? So you say you're friends, yet you're clearly trying to show that you're better than him.
Well, it's funny because in that situation, you're doing that to impress the girls, which means you're strictly, how we were saying before, it's all based off your wants and needs. It's the ego, again.
You're
all
using
based off
them to reach your ego desires.
That's how it goes. Like and the whole time we always do things to get from other people. And we were talking about before the podcast, I don't see that with you and me. Like, we have a conversation when we do, like we came here, played some chess, got some food.
Whoa, bro, I definitely want the
podcast.
viewers to like me better.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding.
So,
but for real, I follow.
yeah, or I could just be like, oh, I just want Ethan on the podcast so that I'll get views.
Right. Vice versa, right.
But I mean, that's not what we're just.
Yeah.
It's Sunday morning, bro.
And we're not
It's
getting
the
many
Lord's
views
Day.
right now.
Oh God! If you made it this far, congrats, bro.
Another one, our second
Yeah,
one.
if you made it this far, bro, we're like a while in
We're
now.
gonna send you a free button.
Yeah, we'll send you
Someday.
a cardboard cookout.
Someday.
Cardboard,
Maybe some cinnamon rolls.
just a pack of like, yeah. But let's get back to it. Dangerous man.
So
Dangerous.
you asked me, are you a dangerous man? Let's see.
Do I think I'm a dangerous man?
Yeah.
I think so.
So would you agree though that you can still become more dangerous, or you will become more dangerous than you are currently?
Yes, and I think the first step to becoming a dangerous man is understanding that you are not a dangerous man and that you do not know everything that a dangerous man needs to know.
Right.
I'm in the process of becoming a dangerous man, but I know that there's still more to learn, and I'm open to learn those things. But I think when you shut down your ability to become dangerous, it's when arrogance kicks in.
Let me ask you one more question, and this one's going to be a little bit deeper. Do you think you can become a dangerous man without God?
No. And the reason I say that is because even in, like, let's just cut Christianity away from it, any form of understanding that there's a higher power and that there's something to strive to be good for, right? If you don't have that in your life, then you're lost in a sense.
Right.
And you can't be dangerous if you're lost. Like, what are you going to do? You're lost. Like, there's no,
Right.
I don't know.
I think that that's 100% true. Without God, you cannot become a dangerous man. Because if you do become really, really successful, even without God in your life, and success is such a different thing. Someone's going to say, oh, I have $5 million, I'm successful, and I'm an atheist, right? That happens sometimes, but, you know, really, are you a dangerous man? How many insecurities and flaws are you worried about? And you're always trying to be perfect, bro, putting this weird pressure on yourself, right? When we're just not perfect, right? And we never will be. We worship a perfect God, but we'll never be perfect. And when you fail and you don't have faith in God, guess who all of that blame goes on? Either yourself or the people around you. A dangerous man isn't going to be one to really put the blame on someone else, and especially, you know.
That's a big factor on it, too.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, oh, I failed, but it's everybody's fault but mine, right? You know, that's not a dangerous man. With the help of God, he's like, all right, God gave me this challenge, and maybe I failed it, but it's all for a reason. Maybe it's to prepare for the next challenge that's bigger, and I need to achieve more. Or maybe God's telling me I'm going down a path that I'm not supposed to be going down, and I need to regroup and then go down that path, right? So I guess with God, even when you fail, all hope is not lost, right? And in most scenarios, without God, all hope becomes lost, or you just put blame on everyone around you.
See, that's the problem, bro. You can't, if you take ownership of every situation and then tirelessly push to always, like, you know, in the gym, when it's like, you're supposed to hit 10, but I'm going to hit 11. And you keep always doing that. I think if you, like, instill that level of discipline in yourself to understand that, like, it's your fault for whatever situation has occurred to you, and then also to tirelessly push forward, like, that's how you become dangerous. Because other people, when you're tired, that's when the boss comes out. That's when who you really are comes out, when you're tired. When you want to go to sleep, but you know, when you want to
sit on the couch and watch TV, but you know you have to go to the gym. You know you have work to get done. You know you have to finish a paper for school. That's when the dangerous man comes out.
Right.
If you get tired,
Facing those challenges, right?
yeah. If you get tired, and that's who you are, and who you really are is who you are on Saturday nights, right?
Yeah.
If you're partying on Saturday nights, that's who you are, and you cannot make up for that with a 5-day work.
Right.
So to be dangerous, you have to be dangerous all the time.
Right,
Ready for battle, like David.
And confidence ties into this a lot, right? So, for instance, I was telling you about my workout today, right? So last week, I couldn't even hit one muscle up, right? But today, I go in the gym and hit 5 muscle ups, right? And it's just because some reason today, I'm like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to accomplish this. And that's what in most battles God gives us, like this confidence that no matter how this happens or the process of this, it's going to happen. You know, God's with me. God's for me. God's not against me. So this is going to happen, right? That full belief in something's going to happen. That's a big thing with confidence, right? And my confidence, I said earlier, came from God, right? A little bit about His glory and the testimony I said earlier. So confidence is just such a big thing.
Belief is crazy. Bro.
Belief is
you can
crazy,
do when you
bro.
actually believe in yourself and the people around you. And I mean everything, bro. Belief is insane. Like I didn't. Like, as soon as I started, and I learned that in the gym, I'd say mainly, because I started to make those belief changes where I'd put the weight on and then I would immediately, instead of thinking, there's no way I'm going to hit this, I'd say, I'm busting this out for 5, bro, let's go.
Right.
Even, you know, when you get to, like, the second one, you're like, wow, this is heavy. And then
Right.
that little voice in your head goes, but you're going to hit it for 6. So then you have to hit it for
Right.
6. So you just keep going, bro, and that's
Right.
how you get better. That's how you become dangerous.
Yeah, it is crazy, bro. And working out's just a clear way to just prove it. It's like a clear example to people in like our modern society, right? For instance, you hitting like 5 reps of whatever weight, right? You lift a little bit more than me, but we talked about the pound for pound stuff.
Yeah.
But anyways, you lift a little bit more than me, and you can go hit 275 for 5 reps. I don't know how many, but there might be a day where you hit it for none, right? There could be that day. And then
I haven't hit it for any today.
right, but then you're going to come back to that point and be like, well, I might have failed then, but today I'm hitting it for 5 no matter what. That belief,
yeah.
right? And that's the exact example I use with my muscle ups. The other day, I was working out with my friend Henry again, and we finished the workout, and I'm like, oh, bro, you want to see me do some muscle ups? Because I think they are pretty cool to show people.
Yeah.
I'm like, but I told him, I'm like, I don't know if I'll be able to hit it today. Instantly, I'm not going to be able to hit it. Right? There's no belief there. So guess who didn't hit any pull-ups? Me. Or muscle ups.
That's crazy.
Me. And then today, I go to the gym. I'm like, I finished a heavy deadlift. I'm feeling hype. I'm like, I'm about to hit some muscle ups. Like, didn't even take the time to do anything else. Just go straight to the bar, grab it. I'm like, let's go. Crank out 5.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
All
it's,
because
it's
of
all
belief.
the mindset, bro.
Yeah,
it's all
so
the
much of it
mindset.
is. I'm not saying that, oh, you bench 225 today, and then tomorrow it's like, oh, bro, I'm going to hit 500. I'm not saying to do that. That's not it. But it's like you're capable of so much more than you think you are. So is it cool if I tell a little bit of like a science story? This is the kind of stuff you really dig. So
Yeah, go ahead.
okay. It's just to show kind of what the human mind is capable of, is this story, right? So I told you this before, but there were this experiment done on mice, right? And so they would put mini mice in water. It's kind of a sick experiment, to be honest, but it's really interesting. So they would put the mice in water and see how long they could swim before they died, right? And so most mice made it about 12, 13, 14, 15 minutes, right? And then they drowned. So we'll just say on a high end, the mice made it for 15 minutes, right, before they drowned. Okay, they didn't have belief that they could survive, is what that's showing me, for longer. So then they did the same experiment with another group of mice. Right before they were about to drown, they take the mice out of the water, and then a few minutes later, they put the mice back in the water. So how long would you say, I think I've told you this before, so, but without knowing the knowledge I gave you, how much longer do you think the mice would be able to swim the second time around?
I think I said like maybe 5-7 minutes.
Yeah, 5 more minutes or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in reality, after the mice were taken out right before they were going to die, they were able to swim for over 24 hours straight before they drowned. And what this shows me is that they thought that there was a way, if they kept pushing, kept going, they were going to escape this danger, right? And what that tells me is that if mice are capable of that with a little bit of belief that they're going to escape, imagine what our minds are capable of with a little bit of belief.
That reminds me of this video I saw. It was like some TikTok or something, but there was like a lake, and then there was like a little pool of water outside the lake, and like there was sand between, you know, the pool and the. Anyway, there was like a big